something that gets me really excited is the idea of AI bringing us to or closer to a utopia as a human society. So the kind of stuff that you see in Star Trek: The Next Generation, where there's no risk of violence. There's access to education for everyone. Everyone, people feel safe. People are nourished. People have a sense of purpose. And so, yeah, this is really exciting for me. It seems like it's something that's within reach in our lifetimes, and it's something that I strive for, and I think probably a lot of our listeners are striving for.
Yes.
And yeah, it's something that you've talked about as well. So,
And we have
um,
we have an opportunity to reach for a second enlightenment in a sense.
mhm,
I mean, the first industrial revolution was about creating stuff. And we got really, really good at making stuff, right? Producing lots of things quickly and efficiently and uniformly. And with that, we have largely, for most people in most parts of the world, we've solved for the first bottom two rungs of Maslow's pyramid. So, food and shelter and increasingly security and things like that. We got pretty good at solving for those needs. But what we haven't industrialized the meeting of needs is love and belonging, is, self-actualization, right? How do you solve for those in our civilization? Read a self-help book, right? Good luck. Maybe see a therapist. I don't know, right? But we don't have good answers for that. What I believe that AI can do for us is to industrialize the meeting of those higher needs, to help us to be better versions of ourselves, to steer us towards actions which are more adaptive, which lead to happiness over a long period of time, can steer us away from sabotaging a relationship and help us to understand each other better, right? Today, we have technologies that can translate between German and Swahili for free, 24 hours a day, right? Surely we can translate between different values, different perspectives, right? We can discover ways in which we are more alike than we thought, because sometimes we end up talking past each other, right? Because sometimes words mean different things to different people. The machines can help us to see eye to eye and even to understand the ways in which we're different, but that's a good thing, that strengthens the world, and it makes a richer, better world if people do have these differences, because it means that we can rely on each other to help solve different problems in different ways. I believe that if it's possible to sidestep the supernormal stimuli of these AI relationships, if we move from what my pal Dan Fagella calls moving from AI sirens to AI muses, right? Where these relationships are not just designed to seduce and distract us, but actually to build us up, to lead us towards eudaimonia, right? The good life, right? Which is doing important work with excellent people, essentially. That could that could uplift the human spirit. That could take us to being those kinds of, you know, better angels of our nature, The way that the people in Star Trek Next Generation are generally chill. They're not jerks, generally. They're not neurotic. They have their heads screwed on. And, you know, we can be more like those people, right? We can be calm and brave and thoughtful and reasoned. And machines might help to get us there.
that was so beautifully said and so inspiring. And going back to my contemporary experience of the closest thing that I have to that, which again is kind of like those email reviews in GPT-4. it absolutely, I think I've talked about this on air before, but not in this episode, is that I come away from that kind of feedback, from that kind of interaction with GPT-4 better at communicating with people too, to people that I manage, to even just, people that I have these, you have these completely transactional relationships with, like, picking up my laundry from the laundromat and they've made a mistake. And if I have been recently getting this kind of great positive feedback from GPT-4, I'm more likely to come into that interaction with, like, my sock is missing from the laundry, but, like, it's okay. Like, um, and, finding a way to communicate even, constructive criticisms in a way where the person receiving it feels better about themselves and feels empowered. So yeah, I don't know, kind of the early taste we're getting from these systems where a lot of alignment work has they tried to put a lot of alignment and ethics work into these kinds of systems like GPT-4. So yeah, it seems like we could really be going in the right direction. And yeah, so you have lots of papers that I'll link to in the show notes related to this, or blog posts related to this as well. So, for example, in a blog post, you mentioned that technology can free us from the saddest aspects of the human condition. So maybe you kind of already touched on those with Maslow and self-actualization, but if there's anything else on that particular blog post that you want to address, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think what I touched upon about machines helping to stop us from like texting our ex or, sending that like drunk and angry email to the boss or something, you know, or if we've had a difficult day, to stop us from reaching for the ice cream at the back of the freezer, to find healthier outlets to sublimate our various emotional shenanigans. I think that's one way that machines can help us, right? And that's what a good friend or parent or partner is able to do. They're able to hold space for us and listen to our rants and, even admonish us if we're if we're swinging the lead, tell us to pull ourselves together, perhaps, if that's necessary too. I think that hopefully machines will be able to provide that for us. The problem is that maybe they'll provide it better than any other human can, and that might have repercussions.
Yeah, yeah. Tying back to that thread from earlier. Yeah.
Already, people are having a fantastic experience with getting counseling of various kinds from AI systems like GPT-4 or whatever. And the nice thing is that it's next to free and it's available 24 hours a day. If you're having a dark night of the soul at 3:30 in the morning, you can chat to Jeep and Jeep will listen. Jeep is there for you. Hopefully, it's not the 5% of the time where something goes wrong and it says, oh yeah, here's how to make a noose. Um, but the great thing is these systems, they have a bunch of different ways of they understand internal family systems, or they understand cognitive, behavioral therapy. It might be rudimentary compared to a qualified psychotherapist, but it's cheap, it's accessible. And the strange thing is that psychotherapists tell me that actually clients come into them disappointed because they expect a dyad, a backwards and forth conversation between the psychotherapist and the patient or client. And in fact, it's not always like that. Like sometimes you're spilling your guts, and the psychotherapist just sits there with their hands folded in their lap in the chair, and they look and they watch and they listen and they don't say a thing, and it's very frustrating. Whereas with a machine, you're always getting that back and forth, you see? And so sometimes people actually prefer dealing with a machine than dealing with a human altogether.
Mm.
And I think that's a telling vision of perhaps where things might be going. and some of the caveats that we should chew on.